Well, Gabe, I know for a fact my grandpa's going to absolutely love this because we're going to be talking about cars today.
Oh, yeah.
First thing I want to jump into right out the gate, Honda Civic, specifically 90s Hondas. What is what's the allure and the draw to that other than, they're iconic cars that have a really incredible history?
So my journey with Honda has been kind of an odd one because I was into American cars my whole life. My first car was a Corvette. Second car was a Dodge Demon. And then I got married, and my wife was, before we got married, she was buying a car, and she was obsessed with Honda because her dad had one, and she just was like, that's what I'm buying. I couldn't convince her. So that was how I learned about the brand. She bought one, I started fixing it, and I began to understand how simple they were and like user friendly. Then that was sort of how I fell in love with the brand initially, was like working on them, the simplicity of it. And then as far as like the racing stuff, Honda really, people, that V8s are great,
Yeah.
I have a Corvette. There's no replacement for displacement is the saying, and that's probably still true even in the day of everything having a turbo and on this and this and that.
Absolute powerhouses.
Yeah. But before everyone had a turbo on everything, Honda was still making a lot of power with small engines. Sorry, I keep looking at the engine. It's all like my eyes are being drawn to it as I talk about it. It's funny that the car is here. I love this car.
Talking about the Muse while the Muse is in the room.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a huge distraction. It's like, this is bad. You're having a gearhead where I'm like, you're testing my focus like in its entirety. I'm just letting you know that it's going to be tough for me. So, in the 90s, so this is a 92, this is the same chassis that we'll be racing. And, that was the golden era for Japanese automobiles, and Honda like broke the Guinness Book of World Records for, I think it was horsepower per cubic inch.
Really?
Yeah, so with like 100 and, oh gosh, it would have been their 1.6 liter, I want to say, the dual overhead cam, the B series. I'm not sure the exact engine, but it spins up to like, 8,000 RPMs. It's it's essentially like a giant motorcycle engine is what Honda's pedigree sort of is.
Yeah.
And still reliable.
Horsepower per cubic inch.
Yes.
So Honda was winning basically everything.
Yeah, they were making 175 horsepower with a 1.6 liter, and like the V8s can't touch that type of essentially it's efficiency.
Yeah,
they're the ones that pioneered variable valve timing, which everybody uses now in some fashion or another. It is essentially a technology that has now, it's everywhere, and they pioneered it, and they just back in the 90s, these things are the shit. And very user-friendly, once again. So for racing particularly, when I first saw endurance racing, the guys that I was with, they were racing a Volkswagen. I'm trying to think of the engine, the VR, the six-cylinder. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Yeah.
And they kept having like reliability issues, like blowing the engine in a race that was just rebuilt.
That's insane.
Yeah, it didn't... maybe you're abusing it. Maybe it's the people driving, but like, it didn't seem, there's a lot of money invested into getting to the track and getting a driver on the track. The idea that like the engine's not going to be something that you can beat on essentially, and it's going to be more or less reliable, that's a problem. So that also is like, seeing that, you're like, oh, okay, brand matters. A lot of guys race Miatas, and I don't even know anything about the Miata engine, but
that's kind of crazy. It's something that's interesting when you think about racing. I have very limited knowledge other than watching a ridiculous amount of F1 right now, but It's like there's something to be said for like the reliability of a vehicle while also being able to continue to perform. And like that was something like we were just watching, I think it was the Mexico Grand Prix just happened. And that was one of the things they were talking about is like at previous races, and I think everyone was like relatively good this year, but at previous races, they've seen a lot of reliability issues because they're at high altitude and the track temperatures are all over the place. And it's something that, when you're thinking about racing, you think about, oh, I just want to go as fast as humanly possible. I want to beat everyone. But also like there's a mechanical component to it that also is involved in actually getting to the finish line. And if you don't actually finish the race, then, that's pretty brutal.
So I'm a big advocate of, like I say, protect the car.
Yeah.
It's like your job as the driver is not to, I mean, if you can get a good lap time, great, but there's good ways and bad ways to do that. And yeah, it's depicted in a lot of ways in film too, where, they're telling the driver like, hey, you're going a little too hard on the car, and this and that. And that's when you're trying to win. I think it's harder to have that self-control. I don't think we'll ever be really competing to win, if I'm like being honest. We'll just be out there kind of having fun, which I think then it's like, hey guys, if we want to race next weekend, don't blow the engine. It's like,
exactly.
We're not winning $1 million, prize for anything. So I even the F1 guys, those cars are like $12 million. I don't know what the engine itself would cost if you just blew the engine outright. But when you're coming down to the tenths of a second in braking, that's what most of it's in braking.
Yes.
The engines aren't, they're all kind of trying to conserve the engine because of the costs there.
That's pretty incredible. What are some of the things specifically with like the Hondas that make them so like unbelievably reliable compared to like everyone else? Because it's like, I mean, my first car was a 96 Honda Accord, and I remember, and it's like, it was like 6 months after I traded it in, I realized I traded in arguably one of the best cars I'll ever own.
Right.
But interestingly, I will say, plug 2016 Mazda 3, somehow incredibly reliable. I don't know if it's keeping up with maintenance, but every mechanic I've taken it to is like,
that helps.
Wow, this thing is like in incredibly good condition. Like, it has, I think I'm at like 150,000 miles now, and it's still feels pretty brand new.
You're getting there. Is it a manual or an automatic?
It's an automatic.
So the transmissions in cars are usually, their service life is supposed to be like 250,000 miles. Okay. So until you get above that, I mean, in a lot of cars, they don't last that long. So that automatic transmission, that'll be the repair that will either
make or break.
Yeah. It'll make you question whether you still love the car, because it'll be, enough thousands of dollars to repair it that you'll question whether you would rather have an old Civic or something. I'm not sure.
Still trying to convince me on that one. I'm sure I'll come back around.
I'll work on it for free. That's a really good, that's a good compromise. I would take that if I were you, but
once I have the money to have an extra car lying around, I'll definitely take you up on that.
Right. Yeah.
But back to the reliability thing. So what is like one of the big things about these cars that kind of makes them like?
That's a really good question, actually. It's a really good question. Let me think about it.
I think about it, like a big one for me was like, I watched a video a long time ago about how Toyota makes their cars. And it's like it's a lot of it comes from like Japanese culture, and like the I think it's called Kaizen is the model. Basically, at Toyota specifically in this video, they were explaining they have a giant red button on the manufacturing line. For any reason, under any circumstances, you can hit that red button and it will bring everything to a stop so that you can
address a problem,
reiterate or address a problem.
Right.
And in their mind, and it's, proof is in the pudding with how many cars they're able to make, they are basically fixing all of those errors. So instead of just trying to grind through all the problems, they will fix every single one of those errors, and then they can just make, 250,000 cars a day and never think twice about it.
I think Toyota invented lean production. The idea of minimizing steps for your workers, just even, simple stuff like that, which I think is called something different outside of like the Sigma 5. I don't know what the hell it's called in the business world, but I think they invented that. They make good cars, and their ethos, which the alternative to what you're saying would be like at a place like Ford, where you don't stop the line unless a guy's like hand gets caught in the machinery, literally. And if there's a mistake, you'll either fix it later, when the car's sit, or whatever. It was not helping them by the 90s make better cars that last longer, which I think you almost just answered your own question in a lot of ways. I'm trying to think of like engineering wise, why, because most four cylinders look like a Honda engine nowadays, more or less. They're set up the exact same way. What the intake manifold's made out of, or what, the exhaust is on the front or the back. That's the only stuff they change. They all look the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know why a Honda engine can get 250, 300, 400,000 miles. Maybe it's the maintenance is cheap, so people do the maintenance on those cars. I don't know. It's a very interesting question.
So similar vein, I guess. So what is, I know like very limited about actually kind of how like cars work and like the difference of design. What is something that you feel Honda would have pioneered in terms of design that you said they all look like Honda engines now? So they obviously had to have been like first to
the variable valve timing that I mentioned earlier. So that's what Honda calls it, VTEC. So
Okay.
that's what, if you're in the Honda crowd, everything's about VTEC. If you don't have a VTEC engine in your Honda, you're not even in the conversation. And that's just their branding on variable valve timing, which is the generic term for, without getting overly complicated, the valves are moving at a certain height from the cam, and you can adjust that and make them open more or less depending on where you're at on the throttle and all this, which can make it where you have a lot of throttle response with a small engine still, or a more power at the top end with a small engine than you could. You can make engines, breathe a little more when they're trying to.
Yeah.
And Honda pioneered that. And now like everyone uses it. It's on every V8 and everything now. So it's kind of fascinating that they did that. Sorry, I can't stop looking.
It's pretty incredible. So you kind of answered the question a little bit, but I feel like there's probably a little bit more detail in it. What is like the overall importance of variable valve timing when it comes to, an engine like this?
Sure.
And like, is that primarily just a performance thing, or does that also impact like reliability on it? Because it's like when it's, if you're not, if you're just going to the store to get groceries, you're not redlining your car off of every red light.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that
I would say it's probably makes it less reliable in that way. Because it's a power adder.
Okay.
And, in my mind, so there's the fundamentalist view is the more moving parts, the more stuff can break, the more stuff can go wrong. And variable valve timing in almost every make is controlled through oil pressure, is what drives the mechanism that's doing things. So if your oil gets clogged up or you don't manage your oil changes well enough, that could gum up your VTEC solenoid or whatever it would be on another make, and that causes a problem where you wouldn't normally have one, because like you said, if your grandma going to the grocery store, you're probably not even hitting the VTEC range, because I think in this car it's about 5,500 RPM.
Wow.
Which is like high, like most but that's the way it's made to be driven. It's made, the power band's 3,000, which is most people's shift point, but in this car it's really comfortable to sit there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been down a little bit of a rabbit hole over the past couple months looking at K24 swaps just in everything. I watched a video. This guy put one in a Dodge Charger, which was absolutely hilarious.
Probably an upgrade for that fucking Jesus.
It was actually kind of funny. They were like, shocked at how basically like plug and play the whole thing was. It worked very, very well. But it's a fascinating thing for me. I'm like, looking at it, like what kind of funky vehicle can I buy and put in a simple engine like that, and then just have tons of power to play with, but not, feel like I'm, putting 1,000 horsepower in a vehicle and, risking running off the road.
I find them to be the Hondas, particularly. I don't have much experience with like a Toyota, any of the, performance vehicles that they would sell, but they have enough power to be enjoyable to drive without, if you have a V8, you have the torque is essentially what you're getting. That is certainly missing in a small engine, but there's a trade-off, takes longer to do, to brake. It's worse on gas. This car gets like 35 miles to the gallon, and I
incredible.
drive the piss out of it too. So it's not like I'm babying the thing. Yeah,
That's a fun thing. So kind of tying in a little bit, prior to, working on this obviously isn't the race car, but
right.
that's, the bigger thing that you're working on right now is building that up. Can you talk to me a little bit more about kind of what you're working on with that in terms of helping, I know you're a veteran and being able to help bring those people back into, this teamwork and camaraderie through building a car to go racing?
Yeah. So when I got out of the military, I took a job at a mechanic here in town that was a Audi Porsche shop. So that was what drew me in. I just walked in and they gave me a job working at the counter, but they did endurance racing as a side thing. It's like regional. It's called Champ Car. And when I went to a 24-hour race, which most of them are 8-hour races, but this is the only thing I'd ever been to was a 24-hour race. And the night racing, I was just, helping out in the pits. I wasn't racing either. I was just fucking essentially a bystander, but I was in their pit, like with them. And I pitted a couple times, I put on someone else's sweaty fire suit and tried to help or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was fun. But at nighttime, I remember I had this moment where I was standing in the pits and there's other pits, to my left and right. And I saw like to one side of me, there was a what most people would think is professional looking crew of there was a lot of people. The car was nice.
Yeah.
They had matching fire suits or whatever, matching gear. And then on the left of me, there was of course, it was a Honda Civic, ironically enough. It's like an EK hatchback. And it was like a few guys and their girlfriends. I mean, you could tell this was not that. Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay, this is all about the teams that are out here are all having fun. They don't give a shit. These people are not competing with these people. They don't care. Yeah. They're in their own worlds they're competing with themselves. And that's when I realized that I got hooked seeing it. The night racing and the smell of the gas. I was like, okay, I need more of this shit, And then, I'm a veteran and kind of realized that there's just something missing with recreation that suits veterans. So for instance, in the military, everything's real high speed and you can't always go shooting or something like that. Nor does everyone want to go shooting. Some people, it makes them uncomfortable to begin with. Right.
Yeah.
And then doing a softball league is kind of and then who wants to compete, with some, you don't want to be competitive in that way. 'Cause then veterans are very competitive people. You don't learn to go to war. And then, when someone, is a bad sport in a softball game, you're not going to not say something, so you just stay out of these situations. Why bother? But racing, not to say you can't be hot on the track if someone's bumping into you or, whatever. Shit can happen, certainly. But it's all about safety. It's okay, first of all, is everyone safe? Because who gives a shit whose fault it was? If someone get hurt, what was it, his fault? What are you going to cheer when the guy's hauled off? No, of course not. It's still, terrifying. And it could happen to you. Anyone can hit an oil slick and bump into somebody else on accident. And then that person wrecks. And that's, is it your fault? No, that's racing. You're out there in cars that are, there's a reason you're wrapped in steel cages while you do this.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. So
it helps fit that adrenaline rush need in terms of something that can be that high speed, relatively high stakes.
It's pretty high
stakes,
but also
right?
Not even
being
able the danger, because the money involved too, the commitment, the time commitment of hauling a trailer with 10 people. If you're going to an endurance race, that's a whole. You got to have multiple drivers and crew and everything. And it's a lot of stuff to coordinate. I don't even know the exact numbers, but roughly to go to a track with 3 sets of tires and track fees and gas. I mean, you're in it for, I would probably say a few grand.
Yeah.
So that alone should keep people fucking motivated.
Exactly.
If they have anything invested into that at all.
That's awesome. So that feels like it's a really incredible opportunity to be able to, reach out and bring this community into something that will allow them to have that like competitive spirit, but also do something that, like you're saying, like you don't want to go do a softball league because it's not going to be, you're not going to have that same reaction. And being able to also on the back end of it, have that team feeling in terms of, you got to have a pit crew, you got to have mechanics,
right.
You're like working together on, this mission to be able to have a vehicle ready to go racing and then actually taking it out there and, being able to hit the track and have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of different types of people to make a race team work. The driver being, that's like, would be the diva on the track. The F1 drivers certainly are all the personalities that they follow. They're following that one person, but everyone on that team, you're saying you watch that, like everyone that is in the pit on an F1 team probably has a PhD in physics from somewhere. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they're all very credentialed to be there. None of them are just like grease monkeys that, there might be some Nepo children there or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
you don't just accidentally end up in a F1 pit garage.
Yeah, it's high stakes. And that's what in the military, like that's what I worked on F-18 radar. That's where like, I learned tool control and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, you want to use those skills, but if you're not working as a mechanic for your 9 to 5, that stuff falls to the wayside. Things happen. It's like, this was my way to get away from like, okay, if normal life is all this other stuff, then there can still be some like high speed tooling and some like loud noise and some speed going on. The smell of fuel, that has to happen.
Yeah.
People need that. We didn't grow, like, I love A League of Their Own as a movie, but like when I was growing up watching it, I wasn't like, man, I want to do this for the rest of my life and like play softball. I was watching like Fast and Furious, like let's fucking build some cars, like have some teamwork. That's the whole theme of those movies is, multiple people building one car for somebody. That's kind of like the ethos behind it.
Exactly. And it also like, kind of tying into what we were talking about with like, the engines and working with like the Honda specifically, like you also get that like reward for, striving for that excellence in terms of, you got to make sure that your engine is like perfectly dialed in and everything is like ready to go.
It's the original tuner. So like,
exactly.
Yeah, you can't just hit it with a bunch of displacement and we're not turbocharging our race car. It's going to be naturally aspirated. So
that's awesome.
It's going to scream. Yeah, it should be pretty cool.
That's sweet. Would you ever consider doing rally racing after this?
Yeah. So yes. So what we'd like to do, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but since you asked, the idea is to build a race car for each type of racing. So then we're kind of doing branch themed cars. So this one will be a Marine Corps theme because they're the first to fight. My brother's a Marine. I know lots of Marines, love the Marine Corps. Was in school with them, just like, oh my God, I just can't get enough people. Like anyone that's a Marine, I'm like, yeah, it's a good guy to have in the room for the conversation because, so we're doing themed cars. So then it's like, what's the second car going to be? And then what type of racing will we do? This is going to be a track car, endurance racing. We might do like time attack. I'm still trying to might go from time attack and then transition it to endurance racing once we have another car and this isn't our baby and we can put it maybe on a track with other cars that might bump into it more. Time attack, we'd just be on the track by ourselves, right?
Okay.
So to your question about the rally car, it seems like the natural course of things would either put us at like rally car or drag racing.
Interesting.
And then what branch you do, if you're doing the Army, it seems more like a rally thing. Drag racing seems more like a Navy or Air Force because the launching jet, that's just in my mind what it makes me think of, probably a Navy car.
That'd be sick.
So that's the answer is like, yes, but let me get one car built and then think about the next one. Because doing an all-wheel drive Civic would be, that's I have another EG hatch that's just sitting in the back waiting to be built. So I need to, that's what I keep thinking about.
No, so we just watched the Southern Ohio Rally when it came through a few months ago. And that was really fun and eye-opening to me. One, just watching, like it was my first time ever seeing rally racing in person. Intense, and it's so intense, but it also was like, it was pretty wild to see like you were saying, like, there's the the guys in the multi-million dollar, race vehicles, and there's a guy that looks like he, rolled his Civic out of the garage and like put a roll cage in it and called it a day. And like,
oh man,
but
he's having the time of his fucking life too. He doesn't even care. He goes there and he's still looking at the other cars going, hell yeah, that thing's sweet. He's not. Gearheads aren't usually jealous because it gives you something to shoot for. Unless,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's like not everyone's going to have the same preferences. That's something I think about. It's like, I remember the first time when we got coffee a few months ago, you showed me your car and everything you've done on it. Like, this thing is absolutely pristine. Like, I've never seen a Honda Civic look this good be this not even trying to blow smoke. It just like that, like, you can see the passion in what you do with like creating this. And it's like, you don't have to build a multi-million dollar car to have that kind of passion.
Sure.
And I think when you have something like this that is a little bit more approachable for people, or, easy to find parts or whatever it is, like, that's how you're able to really like bring that in and bring more people into that fold. And
so what you're saying makes me think of sort of the things that I'm trying to do with the race car, which it's all kind of speculation right now because, there's a lot of work to be done, and doing aesthetics and customizations to make it ours or to make it a Marine Corps themed car is sort of like not the last priority, but it's certainly not something that I'm like, I got a bigger fish to fry, got wiring to do, stuff like this, right? But to your point, we're kind of like bootstrapping this, where anything that's custom is certainly going to be like, I don't have a machine shop and I'm not a fabricator. So a lot of the stuff's going to be very much like what we can do with as little as possible, but also doing something that's different. In my, like, as a pipe dream, I'd say we want to be seen by a magazine or something, or, something like that would like actually like recognize, the build, because it's simple, but yet, the chassis we're doing, the other challenge to building this chassis and trying to do what I'm talking about is that if you Google EG Civic and then think of a concept in your head, fucking zombie theme, purple, just think of one and Google that, you will find someone that has built essentially that car. It is one of the, because in Japan, people customize the piss out of these cars. So they're very, 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 I don't want to say overdone, but people have done them in every way you can. And that's the challenge is, okay, how do I not just make another EG Civic build that has the same parts that look the same way? And it's tough. It gets tough.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. I used to photograph a lot of cars in like California and LA car scene. And that was one of the things I noticed all the time is, people would come out, they would get their, bolt-on kits and they would customize their cars. But at the end of the day, everything started to kind of like look the same, because it's like everyone's kind of playing with the same set of Lego parts essentially. And I think that's like one of the things that's always like,
you really threw the catalog at it is like what we would say
to
some of these people. It's like, cool, man.
Yeah. But it's funny because like, coming from a family of engineers, and like, my great grandfather used to do drag racing back in the day, and like he would build all of his own
the Ford T-buckets and stuff, right? Like he did like the hot rods and stuff.
Yeah, he had a 38 Chevy Coupe was like his like main car that he raced.
Chevy. Sorry.
No, it's all
sorry, Grandpa.
it's all good. He'll love it, but it's funny because I remember talking with my grandpa about this a while back. He was saying like his dad, when he made his car, he was like, he had Grandpa, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss all the specific details on this, and he'll
fast forward through all this.
I'll get the message on Facebook about it. But basically, he had like the stock. He basically just put like a stock Corvette engine in his car, and that was what made it literally faster than everyone else. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because it's almost too simple.
Right.
But that was the thing, and the point he was trying to get to is like, all these guys would come out, they would like be boring out pistons and doing all this crazy shit to their engines. He's like, you just do the simple thing. We know this motor is incredibly good. Right. It comes from the factory ready to go. He, worked as a mechanic on the assembly line at GM, so he knew, what it was. And it was like, that was the thing that was able to do it. And when it comes to like modifying, I've always kind of had that same thing. Like, I love how your car is, because I always think like, oh, if I ever got an older car like this,
Right.
I want to do something that's like really clean and simple and like just is exactly what I would want it to be. And I see so many people that have these old cars and they do so much stupid shit to it, and I'm just like,
It's gross.
it
gross.
gets crazy.
So thank you again for complimenting the car. I appreciate that, and I will take that, because yes, I've spent enough time on the car that I'll take any compliments it gets. This car is all stock still. Everything on it's stock.
That's
and
incredible.
The reason I've been doing that is, to your point, when you go, I haven't even been to a big Honda show. I know there's like a OEM class in the show and all this. I haven't been to it. I did go to an import show though, and there was only a handful of EG Civics in general. None of them were really, they were all Ohio cars. Mine's not like a gem or anything, but it's not rusted out.
Yeah.
But everyone has the same parts on it, to your point, and now these cars are 30 years old. We're like, yeah, they're all being ripped apart. They're all on their second, third, or fourth driver by now. Most of them are younger people, although they are getting a little more expensive. They're not $1,000 and $2,000 cars now.
Yes.
A lot of high school kids don't have $8,000 to buy a fucking EG Civic anymore,
It's true.
or whatever they would cost. But keeping this one stock makes it unique now, which is ridiculous, because everyone that sees it's like, wow, it's so nice. It's like, this is essentially just a little better than it was from factory, powder coated, polished, but nothing changed like else. The other
That's
thing,
incredible.
the last thing I'll say about the stock and the versus not stock about Honda, it's really fascinating that you always see the first thing people do is they'll remove the air box and they'll put, the cold air intake, is what they say. And what's funny is, if you go to Spoon Sports, doesn't sell an airbox for essentially any Honda. And if you read the description for the filter, it just simply says that the airbox has been engineered to take advantage of it's very scientific, but it has something to do with air pressure changing when the throttle body is opening and closing, and it creates a pressure that when you open the throttle body, it then rushes air in, coming off throttle, and they don't recommend changing it. And
That's so funny.
And they build the best, highest power Honda engines that anybody does in the world, and they essentially run stock airboxes. Now in their race cars, I'm sure they probably got some crazy $4,000 thing they build.
They do something a little custom for the high-end race car, but like for the most part, like everything, they're like, no, Honda actually already did this right. Like,
I mean, at least the airbox.
Yeah.
What they do is they balance the internals to a higher tolerance. So Honda, if a Honda engine is essentially like a 95% efficient engine, with the way everything's set up and whatnot, they just create like a 99% efficient and squeeze an extra 25 horsepower out of an engine that, is that small. It's pretty big deal.
that's really incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a cool company.
I love that. What are some of the, like, you were saying, like, for the race car and stuff, what are some of the, like, mods that you're doing with that, and keeping kind of in that theme of, like, you're trying to build this thing with excellence in mind? What are some of the, like, cool things that you guys are doing with that?
So, building a car that, like I said, we might be doing endurance racing, and certainly there's going to be people driving it that are not like qualified race car drivers. There might be guys jumping in it that are veterans that, whatever, have never tracked a car before. So we could either be putting cheap engines in that we're going to replace, or essentially have the idea that we'll build good engines, but we'll rebuild them pretty regularly. And I think we're going to try to do that until I'm proven that that's a bad model.
Awesome.
To your question, because of that, we are like putting some nice parts on the car. We're not just throwing junkyard engines in and, cleaning them up and putting a new valve cover on and calling it a race car engine. So the cylinder head, which is essentially where all the power is made on something like this, naturally aspirated. It's a big part of it. And so that's being ported and built by 4 Piston Racing outside Indianapolis, I think they are.
Awesome.
And they build like 500 horsepower K series. That's like they don't even, we're running a D series. No one runs these things. So I was surprised they even worked on them, but they have a CNC port that they do for them. So I was like, all right, we're doing D series. We're trying to do something like, a little different that will it'll definitely make more power too. Like it's, we'll see. We'll see if it's worth the money for the power it makes, or if it ends up just kind of being something that, I don't know yet.
Yeah. There's still a lot of questions to be answered there. What's the big difference between like the K series and the D series?
There's a couple differences. The closer comparison would be a B series to a K series, because they're both dual overhead cam, and then one just has a timing chain versus a timing belt. D series is single overhead cam. That's the difference between that makes it kind of the economy engine and not the big power engine, is that you can't have VTEC on the exhaust and the intake separately.
Interesting.
It gets into Honda and how they created this engine that made so much power.
It's funny. I was just about to ask what's the difference between the dual overhead versus single, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So you have an intake cam and an exhaust cam, and on D series you have one cam with the lobes for all of it.
Okay.
So when you engage VTEC, you're not engaging the exhaust. And on the B series and like the Integra engines in this, when you open it up, it's opening up the exhaust too, which is why those things can scream. It's why they rev up so high, because they actually can make power that high. Yeah. You could rev one of these up to 9,000 RPMs, but you're just not going to make any more power. And like we were talking about earlier, you're just going to beat the piss out of the engine. You're not going to be able to get 100,000 miles with something like that.
That's cool.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. That's kind of fascinating. It's like through just like this conversation, but also trying to kind of understand like what actually makes power in a car. It's always fascinating. I remember like one of our family friends as a kid, he had a giant Ford F-350 truck, and he had, I think it was a power bank. It was some sort of modification on the truck, but it had this like giant exhaust system. And I remember as a kid, like, you don't fully understand, but having a better exhaust system on your car, like to your point, is what really allows it to breathe. That's why a lot of people will literally, they take off the mufflers and they want to straight pipe it so that there's literally zero back pressure on, the engine. And if you can, have that easier to breathe thing, you'll be able to get a little bit more power out of it.
So that's what, when people ask me like to explain an internal combustion engine to them, or if they ask me to explain the difference between a car that has a turbo or a supercharger and like what all that means, I start with it kind of essentially what you were saying is an engine is essentially just a big air pump. Yeah. And how quickly you can move the air through is how quickly you can, spin it. And, without getting too technical on what creates torque versus horsepower and what the hell that means, I won't cross my own wires trying to explain it to whoever might be listening to this. But the less friction, which is where the oiling systems get into, Honda has getting back to your question you asked me a while ago, they have very good oiling systems. That's why they're so good at racing. I don't know where the pedigree or the engineering exactly comes from for that, but I know like their oil pumps don't tend to fail. Toyota, either water pumps, have that reputation, which is why these guys are driving their trucks around the Middle East everywhere, because like they don't overheat.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Honda certainly has leaky water pumps. That's a thing on a Honda, and that's the timing belt, and so it's a thing. But the oil system, that seems to be one of their strong suits. Again, how you can rev it up and create horsepower where you're not just running all the parts on with no oil if you're spinning it up that fast, but you can't oil things that quickly.
Yeah. That's a whole other thing. I remember as a kid, my dad always told me, he's like, just make sure you get your oil changed in your car often enough. And I will say that was the testament to my Honda. Is I was, young and dumb and stupid and never changed. I remember when one of my friends was like, I took my car to get the oil changed. And I was like, really? You do that? I was like, thankfully the car lasted way longer than it should have. And I'm sure once I got old enough to realize the error of my ways, I was a little better about it.
But don't even sweat it. When I was young, so I bought my Corvette when I was in the Navy. I went out to California, as a matter of fact. So I was stationed out there in Lemoore, and I bought a 76 Corvette and didn't know anything about cars. And I rewired this thing. I put new gauges in it, and my oil pressure gauge, I just thought I didn't wire it right. And I had put royal purple oil in it because I don't even know why I bought it at the time, but it was, you know, supposed to be the good stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
The branding must have got me that day. I don't know, because I certainly didn't have money.
Yeah.
It's like an E2 or whatever. It's like, no, I don't know why I bought royal purple, but I bought some. That was what was in the engine. Drove the car like that for months with assuming that I had not wired the gauge correctly, because once again, I didn't know what I was doing. I wired a whole car, did a lot of shit shoddy. I was lucky it ran at all.
Yeah.
Only to find out that I just didn't quite have enough oil in it later on, where I was running it on low oil pressure for months and months. And I'd never, I mean, the engine's still in the car. It still runs. It's never like, you know, spun a bearing or anything. And I still use royal purple oil for that reason.
That's
like
incredible.
I just can't believe it. It's
Yeah.
like I'm, you know, and it's a testament to the 350 Chevy small block also. So
Yeah.
Grandpa will like that plug.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. It's something I've been like fascinated with, like learning about one, just like different cars and like what goes into it, but also how like a lot of these older vehicles were just literally built to be bulletproof and reliable. And like, that's something I'm interested, like, as you're kind of watching as like cars get newer and whatnot, like, how do you
Don't get me started, man. Don't get me started.
well, I mean, like one of the things I'm fascinated to hear kind of your opinion on is like, how do you feel like newer cars? They're obviously designed, you know, with, you know, planned obsolescence in mind, but also
Sure,
like,
seems that way.
what do you feel are some of the big things that are causing a lot of these failures? You know, I mean, at a certain point, you can only design a 4-cylinder engine to be so many different ways. And, you know, like you said earlier, they're all starting to kind of look like Honda engines, but like there's obviously other things that are going into this that are starting to cause all these issues.
So a lot of stuff I see or have seen is like plastic parts. So this engine has a nice shiny aluminum intake manifold. That's usually plastic on newer cars.
Interesting.
I can't speak to the specificity on how unreliable a plastic one makes, but the issue is they're just more complicated. As like I was saying, more parts to break. So not only do you have the modules and stuff, which we won't even go there, even if they made modules forever and you just had to replace everything, like on a Volkswagen turbo 4-cylinder, plastic intake manifold has like an adjustable flap valve that controls the airspeed so you get more torque at low RPMs and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a add-on to variable valve timing. This is like variable valve timing on steroids now. But if that fucking valve goes wrong, your car like won't run right. Yeah. It'll be fine. It's not mechanically like gonna break itself, but it certainly will be running with the wrong fuel mixture or something. It'll fucking run like shit. It won't run right. And there's tons of that in cars now. And then to the sorry, I'm fumbling over my word. Planning in obsolescence.
Yeah.
Got
planned
that?
obsolescence.
Thank you. They certainly do it. And then the other thing is there's like a bad quality on parts. Just new parts you buy in general are very, very poorly quality checked. This is another reason I like Spoon so much. I was so impressed by them. I bought 3 oil filters to use on the race car engine from them, and they all their parts have this authenticity sticker. It's a holographic sticker that has a serial number on it. I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. That was cool.
Yeah,
it was even on their sticker, like their logo stickers that they sell. Those have the authenticity sticker on the. So that was like, I was like,
that's insane.
But here's what got me: all the oil filters have sequential serial numbers on the different stickers. Like they were all inventoried at this, and I was like, okay, that's actually showing like you guys run a tight ship. That's one of the things that sold me on them so much. Where I was like, that's not normal. That's that Japanese ethos. That is, you know, there's a reason you guys tune these engines up. That Spoon, they spin Honda engines up to like 13,000 RPMs and
insane.
Still make power, and they're still reliable. Their engines are nuts. I don't know what their new ones do, but the old B series ones were like what they built their brand on.
That's bonkers.
And,
and for anyone listening, how insane is it that you get an engine spinning up to 13,000 RPMs?
Oh my God. That's like just, this is the other reason I like Honda and why, even though I have faster cars to drive, I enjoy drive. This is a driver's car. I can see why when someone would have test drove one of these in the 90s, I'm like, all right, yeah, I can go get a freaking Ford, whatever, but this thing's fun. they're like little race cars. They're a motorcycle company that started making cars that now makes these, motorcycle engines spin up to 16,000 RPM or whatever, because they're small. And Honda has the same idea and a little bit bigger engine. And when you have a car that spins up that high, that's still pulling at that RPM, because most of the V8s, there's a big drop off in power. At that point, you're just working the engine, for waiting for the shift. Yeah. And it's a whole another feeling. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like, for most people at home thinking about it, look at you, like, actually, like, when you're next time you're on the road, or, if you're listening to this in your car, look at where your car actually tops out at, and you'll realize that, for the most part, a pretty standard car, and especially if you're driving an automatic, you're never getting over maybe like 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs. Right. And so to be able to do literally 5 times that.
If it's a diesel V8, you're pulling like $4,000 as a red liner, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
The bigger the engine, the lower the RPM range usually. And that's what this is, stock from 92. And I don't know what Honda, I'm not sure currently, because they turbocharge stuff now, and that might change things for them as far as what they redline their stuff to, or made it reliable, or what have you. But this one stock goes to 7,000. In our race car, that's what I'm trying to. It's going to run on alcohol. Nice. It's going to run on E85. So I'm going to try to like keep spinning it up and see. I'm trying to think. It's at the machine shop now, and I can't remember what we discussed. I want to say 9,000, like top. So it should be able to do like 7,000 reliably, I would think.
Yeah, and that's a smart way to kind of put it together. Is like, you want it to do 9, but what that'll mean is you can still reliably hit 7, which I think is cool, because like we were saying earlier, if you don't get to the finish line of the race, then none of it really matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can't put oil on the parts while they're moving that fast. It'll explode itself.
That's pretty crazy. Before I forget, I want to at least kind of tie back to it. Can you give me kind of the brief overview? So the organization that you're starting up is Wrenches for Warriors, with a focus on being able to bring vets in to do racing and build a car and kind of have that camaraderie, and help with like that side of things. And it's something that until we started talking about it, I started kind of doing a little bit of digging and looking into it, and realizing, one, just statistics of mental health when it comes to vets after service and all that. Yeah. And kind of, opportunities and things to be able to provide them with opportunities for that help and care beyond just, medical and that side of things.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw I think it was the Wall Street Journal. I did an article about what they've been doing to vets with all these medications, where, I essentially tell it like they've been chemically lobotomizing these vets. It's very disconcerting to see. I kind of refuse to take any medication for any mental health stuff. And I'm not, some guys I think have like really, really bad problems and they're just looking for relief.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily trying to find it. However, once someone's given you a handful of pills a day to take, I feel like you need to start questioning whether there might be another way. And I've just gone through my own journey where I just don't find medication to be helpful. And I just don't. I don't. It has nothing to do with a stigma or anything. I don't find it to be helpful. And this is the VA. This is what they do to the guys that need the most help. They're essentially like, here, take a handful of pills and shut the fuck up. And that's not going to work for me. So now there's other people that do this, but it seemed like people are, I don't know, there's something missing. And that's why I made this. Yeah. It feels like there should be a massive organization. Not to say we're trying to get huge or anything, but like every time I talk to someone about this, they're like, that's a great idea. It's like, well, if that's true, no one said, oh man, wait, hold there's criticisms of it, but they're more kind of in the weeds and kind of like, okay, well, there's anyway. But the point is, there's people all around the country that want this, and no one's offering it on any scale. Wounded Warrior Project's not really what they do. The VA, certainly, they have recreational, like, I'm trying to think what it's qualified for. alternative sports therapy or something. That's what we would fall under. And, but they're not doing it. And maybe it's because racing's expensive and they can't I don't know. They suck is what I think. So I don't think they could spend the money, whatever. Let's not even get into that.
Yeah, it's all good.
But yeah, that was why I made it, was kind of for myself. And then realizing the more I talk to, my buddies, I still have buddies in the military that like are getting out, and they're wondering what it's going to be like as a civilian without this organization around them, because they have enough friends that have told them like, hey man, if you're looking for someone to be your brother, like when you're in, you ain't going to find that once you're out. Like it's kind of, you have what you have at that point. And that's what this is too, is we're scattered everywhere. Veterans make up like, I think it's 8% of the population, or maybe 6 or something. It's a real low number. So it's like when you run into another one, then are they even in the age cohort? Do they have the same hobby? Or do you even want to hang out with them? So yeah, this is a way to pull in all the gearheads, all the people that just, want to go fast. And I think it's a way to cut down on reckless driving. Vets have a very high death rate statistically, more than civilians. Vietnam vets, they track this, and it's no better for the OIF guys. We die very frequently from, I can't remember the statistics, but it's like much higher than a civilian counterpart. And I don't know why, but I can assume that veterans, the problems that we carry in our mind, that extends onto the road. So anything that we can do to guide that into a place that's less destructive, or is therapeutic even.
Yeah,
that would be a jump. Hey, don't road rage when someone cuts you off. Just wait for the fucking track, man. Dude, wait for test drive day. Yeah, or wait for the car show so you can vent to us about it, and we'll all fucking there's just, because there's too much at stake. People recklessly drive on the road. It's a huge fucking problem. So that's another big driver, is just give us an outlet.
That would be really incredible once this whole thing gets up and running, and you start being able to look at the statistics. If you're helping on the mental health side of things, right. You're cutting down on medication, you're able to cut down on the actual damage of people having issues with road rage and all that. Nice. that would be a really, really incredible thing. And I truly believe, I think that'll definitely be the case with this. So it's going to be very exciting once it's up and operational. And can't wait to see that car out on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's coming soon. Be once this body shop jumps into gear.
Definitely, that'll be amazing. Well, awesome, Gabe. I feel like we covered a lot of really incredible things today. And I really enjoyed this conversation, getting to wax on about the Honda and all the things that you're doing. And honestly, I truly mean it when I say can't wait to see that car out on the racetrack. And I think the organization overall will be really incredible, and just helping people. So
hopefully the next time we talk, we'll talk at a track with, maybe some more noise. We'll have to, do the headphones and stuff.
What? I can't hear you.
Yeah. That's what, well, maybe that'll be the next time though. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, for anyone that wants to check out what you're doing, Wrenches for Warriors on all the platforms.
Yeah. So Instagram is just Wrenches for Warriors, all one word. And then our website is wrenchesforwarriors.org. The number 4, I should say. Ooh, gotta remember that one. Wrenches for Warriors with the number 4, the numeral 4. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for this. And
yes,
I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.